Welcome, guys. This is Patrick Robertson here at Momentous Building, ready to give you guys some more information about the construction industry, specifically on construction in the winter. Now, as always, let me just get this out of the way. If you find any value, please give us a like, share, and subscribe, as this really helps us grow the message and share the word and help educate homeowners around the world. Now, with that being said, we're going to be talking about winter construction in the winter, some of the risks associated with it, some of the thoughts that you have to keep in mind if you want to execute a construction project in the winter. Specifically, we're talking about the northern half of America right now. That's where we do it. We're located out of Westchester, New York. So a lot of our winters get really rough around December and then finish up around March in terms of winter construction, where we're going to see some ground freezing, we're going to see some ultra low temperatures. In either case, let's get right into it. As you move north into America and even into Canada and some other winter climates, that period is just going to grow. So let's dive right in. Biggest hurdle of doing construction in the winter for the client itself is going to be the delays in schedule and the cost increases in working through the winter. Now, depending on your type of project that you have, we recommend either putting off your project until early spring or just going into it with the understanding that if you have a 1.5 year long project or a 2 year project with multiple phases, those winter months, guys, in the project is just going to move slower. Maybe not necessarily an increase in cost because the contractor might be factoring that in his 2 year plan, but things just happen slower. There is delays from weather, there is power outages, there is icy conditions, just cold out, you move slower. That being said, let's dive into the specific parts of winter and construction that can have some risks in your building. So obviously, the ground freezes every single year. There's a reason why footings, especially here where we are in New York, have to be at least 36 inches below grade. In northern climates, that goes up to 42 and maybe even 48. That's because the ground freezes, and the water particles in the actual ground themselves creates an ice block that is impermeable with a shovel of these different items. So that frost line can actually extend well below 3 feet in some climates. So what does that mean for construction? That means if you got to dig a trench by hand, if you got a small excavator you got to dig up, it's going to be really, really hard. We've had to actually jackhammer the ground in specific situations in order to do that underground work. Now, if you got some really heavy equipment, if you got some 60,000 plus pound excavators, digging through this is going to be less of a problem. It might be a little bit more challenging than, excavating in some clean, soft soil in the summer, but it still can be done. So with that understanding, know that smaller excavation projects are definitely going to be a lot more challenging, and if you do want to do this during the winter, the contractor might be bringing in some heavier equipment, which might have some increased costs. Next, as we move forward towards the building process, all the excavation is done, then they're going to want to start pouring concrete. Concrete can be poured when it's below freezing. Please note that. It can absolutely be done. Special additives can be added to the concrete to make sure that it cures below freezing temperatures. The water does not freeze in the concrete and everything goes smoothly. However, that mixture has to be done correctly. Secondly, a lot of times you have to throw warming blankets on the actual concrete while it dries, so that way no cracking happens and the curing process goes along smoothly. Curing can take longer in the winter depending on the temperatures and these different extremes, but it can absolutely be done. There's just more risk associated with it. We've seen foundations poured incorrectly, and we see massive cracks going through the exterior walls or through the slabs that have to be grout injected and cleaned up, and other methods that add to increased costs. In that situation, though, the contractor should be carrying those costs. That being said, it's still a risk that could be had. Third, as we move into concrete finished, then we get into rough carpentry. Rough carpentry can, yet again, be done in the winter. It is not a problem for guys to be working outside when it's less than 30 degrees out, framing up a house. However, specific things can happen with their lumber that might cause a deficiency in products or quality in the actual framing of the walls. When wood freezes, it can bow and do these different things. It also contracts. So that means that we're building a structure when the wood's the smallest size. Now in the summer months, that might expand and it might change how the room is actually built and the sizes and dimensions. This might mean that there might be some shifts of up to an eighth inch or a quarter inch, and wood members might be bowing or twisting because of the height that they were cut at and after they expanded. Now, this doesn't mean that it can't be done. Engineered lumber does not go through some of the same massive tolerance changes that a normal 2x4 or 2x6 goes through. So that's a benefit. And then same thing with structural engineered plywood and these different elements. So rough carpentry can be done. Some of the things we definitely recommend is that your wood pile is always covered up and never in direct contact with snow itself. That there's not massive lumber deliveries there. It's done in short quantities in order to get the best possible quality from the lumber yard itself, and we're not sitting on the job long. And really move through this process fast. Another thing with the rough carpentry, if it snows, if it's icy out, the guys are going to be working slower because it is more dangerous. So they're going to want to take their time going up and down the ladder, getting their tools together, and these different things. Finally, we're going to talk about some of the finished things that have to go into the construction project. Now, these should all be done in a finished environment, meaning that the space is heated, it is adequately up to the temperature, say 55 degrees, 60 degrees, and in that way this will allow it to be installed. These items should never be installed when the house is too cold because you're going to have a deficiency in product. For example, finished carpentry and cabinetry should never be installed when the home is going to be dropping below 45 degrees, 40 degrees, because what's going to happen is that wood is going to contract, and then when the room heats back up to the 70 degrees in the summer with different humidities, we're going to have massive expansion. The joints are going to crack. You're going to see some separation, some of the minor joints in say the door casings or the windows and these different things. The cabinetry, you're going to see the joints pop in the cabinetry, especially if the cabinets are already painted. You're going to see the actual paneling split, and you're going to have paint joints with exposed wood and these different things that you really, really don't want. So if you ever walk into your construction project and it's going on, and say it's February and the heat's not on and your finished carpenters are framing up your house and it's 35 degrees in there, I would highly recommend that the best possible solution is to put a pause on it and get the house heated up, get the HVAC going, get it insulated, and make sure that this house is at least sitting at 55, 60 degrees. At that temperature, you're going to see less expansion and contraction in the materials and really help this house be built out in the correct way, giving you the best possible quality. Same thing with drywall and taping. Drywall compound doesn't really dry too well when it's less than 60 degrees. It also takes a lot longer. That's why you see a lot of guys with heat guns and fans going to help air out the space and really dry up that compound. The biggest thing is painting. Painting really can't be done in the winter, on exterior that is, because for paint, this is a big thing. The surface temperature always has to be above 40 degrees, and that's the surface temperature. So we might have a day that's 50 degrees out. However, we need to wait till the actual surface temperature of what we are painting heats up to above 40 degrees. This might only give us a window of 33 hours, 4 hours during the day to paint it in a winter month if we have a nice day. Secondly, there is options around that. What we do is if we're doing a small project, we will pre-paint the lumber or products or moldings to make sure that we can install it. Now we might have to do some touch-up painting in the spring, a couple hours of just with a brush and getting some of the nail holes or some of the wood filler and do cleaning up the edges where the cuts were. But at least it looks 99% done, and the follow-up work is a lot easier. So those are kind of the major concerns going into it. I think the biggest idea is just knowing that there may be increased costs if you want to start this project in the winter and you can't put it off. The contractor might charge a few percent more, and then on top of that, it's going to take a lot longer. It's just not going to roll as smooth as it will when it's August and it's clean skies and it's nice weather and the guys are happy to work. Just a fact. And then secondly, we're going to go into the interior construction. That house should be heated up if these guys are doing finished work, finished carpentry, cabinetry, painting, drywall, you name it. That should all be done in a finished environment, heated to at least 60 degrees. That's our recommendation, as we've seen anything lower can really cause some damages. So our recommendation, like we said, if we can wait, you can wait. If you got a multiple year project, your contractor will be able to navigate through that, and it can be done successfully without risk. There's just more precaution that needs to get taken care of. Thank you guys. We really appreciate you watching this full video. If you found any value, like we said, please give us a share. If you have any questions, please drop them below in the comments. We are happy to answer. We are also really happy to hop on a call to help you design your next project. Any questions you might have, technical information, or just what's going on in your current project with your contractor. We love chatting about construction and giving advice. So please give us a call, give us a like, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.